Hello there, IELTS students. Welcome to IELTS Podcast. You no longer have to worry, fret or panic about IELTS because we are here to guide you through this test jungle. Enjoy these IELTS tutorials, and if you need more help or want to access the famous online course, you can visit us at IELTSPodcast.com.
Hello there, IELTS students. Daphne here again. In this tutorial today, we're going to be looking at some different types of essay structures you may be presented with in your IELTS Writing Task 2 test. So if you've taken the test before or if you're preparing for the first time, it is really important to be well prepared, to have lots of practice in writing all kinds of essays in order to be really confident and ready. So what are the 5 types of essay commonly seen in IELTS Writing Task 2? Here is the simple answer. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So an opinion essay, but note to what extent. A discussion, so there's different kinds of discussion essays. Discuss both views and give your point of view. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages. Discuss the problems and possible solutions, or even the causes and what problems this causes. And then also 2 questions. So for example, why is this happening? And is this a positive or negative development? So those are 5 types of essay, and they need slightly different essay structures. In this tutorial, what we're going to do today is look at to what extent essays, some discussion essay, and problem and solution questions. And what I'm going to do to make this more relevant for you, for your exam preparation, and to illustrate how these structures are different and how they work in context, is to share with you some amazing extracts from essays which have been sent in to us by our students for correction. So these are all students who are currently taking one of our courses or essay correction packs, and they know that by getting lots of positive, personalised feedback, that's the quickest way to improve rapidly and score really well in their exam. So every time they write me an essay, we do corrections and they can build on that feedback and they can improve. So what does an IELTS essay structure look like? What features should you include in order to score really highly on task achievement and coherence, and these both account for 25% of the total. So 50% in all is task achievement, have you answered the question properly, and cohesion, this is particularly important today, can the examiner find their way through your essay. So an essay structure is the shape, the design, the framework of your essay. That means that the order in which your sentences are presented, how they follow one another, how your argument or discussion is developed, and how you can add examples and then conclude each point you're making. So this is what you need to be thinking about as you build your paragraph. So IELTS essays are very structured, and they can seem quite restrictive if you're used to writing in a more flamboyant or informal style. Another problem is that the essays are relatively short. So we suggest you need to write around 350 or 370 words in order to develop your points as much as you need to for band 7. And of the other challenge you need to do here is in 40 minutes. Do it in 40 minutes. So you can see how it's important to get a lot of practice. It's asking you to do a lot, these essays. So let's start with a look at a general essay structure and how this would work for opinion essays. So to what extent, some of the discussion essays. So you need to make sure you have firstly an introduction. So you'll be sure here to state the question in your own words so that you can introduce the topic of your task 2. And the introduction needs to include a general statement, and this is kind of paraphrasing the question, which you know that you have to do, but not just paraphrasing. You need to show the examiner that you understand the question. So I strongly recommend you take time to think when you're doing planning. So think, what am I being asked and what do I have to do here? So for opinion essay, you need to indicate your opinion So you're going to make your general statement, then indicate your opinion, which way you're going to argue, and then the last sentence in the introduction will introduce the essay. So sentences such as, this essay will discuss these key issues using examples from X and Y, are really useful here. What you need to do is to be guiding the examiner through your essay, help them read it as fluently and coherently as possible. So your first body paragraph is going to support your opinion. So in your introduction, you stated your opinion, and now in your first paragraph, you need to provide facts to justify your choice. So the structure should be an impactful topic statement, then 2 or 3 supplementary sentences to build on this, making clear points, adding information, developing them, before adding a relevant example, and then summing up that paragraph. In the second body paragraph, you're going to state the opposite view. So you can start with words like however, although, despite, which indicate that you're going to change direction. And you don't have to persuade the examiner about the opposing opinion, but it's important to state what it is, and then you will have answered both sides of it. And then the structure is you follow is going to be the same as your first body paragraph, developing your arguments, answering the questions why and how, and just making sure you have enough detail in there and enough development. So finally, you're going to summarize your opinion. So this is your conclusion, and it's a very important shorter paragraph which serves to sum up your ideas and restate your opinion. So this is important for the to what extent in discussion essays, but less so in the problem solution essays. You still need the conclusion, but we don't need your opinion. You can put your opinion in, but it's not so necessary. Most important for me on the conclusion is do not start throwing in new ideas here. This is not the time to make a new point or to tell us any new information. You've already done that. So if you've done the exam before, you know that some of the common topics for Task 2 writing are art, maybe crime, education, the environment, globalization, science, sport, technology, work. And on the online course or on the correction service, we have a lot of IELTS topics that you can practice with, that we work and give correction feedback on, and also have a look on the website because that will always give you examples of recent essay questions. So let's see how these essay structures work in practice. So here is a recent IELTS Task 2 writing question. So, many governments in the world spend large amounts of money on art, which helps to develop quality in people's lives. However, governments should spend money on other things rather than art. Do you agree or disagree? Give your opinion. So the command words here telling you what to do is do you agree or disagree? So you've got to decide, and give your opinion. Those are the 2 things you need to be doing in this essay. But let's look at it carefully, because many governments in the world spend large amounts of money on art. So we're thinking, okay, this is painting, but this could be galleries or museums or sculpture as well, which helps to develop quality in people's lives. Now, that's a kind of hidden phrase, which is a bit easy to overlook, but let's think about that. Quality in people's lives. So for full task achievement, you need to think about that as well. Make sure you read and understand the question and you answer it in its entirety. Identify what type of question it is so we know it's an opinion essay, and underline the keywords in the instruction and keep referring back. So this student has done a really, really lovely job here. In the intro, she writes, art lovers argue that investments in art, including gallery and exhibitions, might be a successful way to improve quality, depth, and cultural richness of life. Whereas economists advocate there are innumerable other priorities where public money should be spent. For example, healthcare assistance. I believe that art may not be the first area to be invested in, and this area will provide an example from Brazil to support arguments. Okay, so the first sentence here is absolutely lovely. It immediately addresses this idea of quality of life. So art might be a successful way to improve quality, depth, and cultural richness of life, but whereas Economists advocate, so different people, argue there are numerous other priorities where public money should be spent. For instance, healthcare assistance. So immediately I know where this essay is going to go. Very, very clear and clear opinion. Art may not be, so that might be better to say should not be the first area to be invested in. And this essay will provide examples. So I know what's going to come. First body paragraph. There may be a genuine amount of interest in the arts all over the world, but the fact remains that accessing it is a far reality for many people, especially in underdeveloped countries. So nice strong topic sentence there, really, really clear start. And now we're going to develop it. This is because in these nations, the number of museums, concerts and galleries is significantly lower than in richer nations. As a result, art may not play an important role in their standards of living, and consequently, spending such significant sums on these locations would not be viable. Okay, that's a really, really clear point, very nicely developed, easy to follow. So, telling me what the problem is, telling me why, and then telling me, as a result, art may not play such an important role. There simply aren't the museums there. So, very clear, really nice. Each sentence follows on and develops from the next one. So, the next paragraph. Secondly, there is ample, powerful, almost daily evidence that healthcare systems worldwide are collapsing due to a surge in numbers of chronic diseases such as obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. So immediately in the second paragraph, we are understanding changing direction. We're explaining why this money should be spent on healthcare instead. As a result, these issues bring a considerable financial burden to many countries, which would need to be invested in investing in prevention and treatment. To exemplify this effect, a paper published by São Paulo University showed that problems of an overweight population, obesity, and the adverse effects associated with these conditions have increased government costs by nearly 40% in Brazil. So clearly linking the example to the problem, there's a huge amount of cost involved in looking after people who are sick, and therefore, she says, healthcare should be one of the highest priorities when it comes to government investments to offer improvements to people's lives. So very clearly, we've been given the second half of the opinion and the other half of the essay, which is put the money into healthcare, don't put money into art. So very clear position. And then the conclusion equally is here. In conclusion, from the information and examples given, I strongly believe that. So we've got the opinion again. In order to improve quality of life, in allocation of funds to healthcare systems all over the world should overtake or take preference over less essential areas such as art. So that's a really, really nice essay there. And you can hear the excellent vocabulary, very good work on the coherence and the cohesion, and obviously answering the essay title nicely. The structure of that essay is very good. So the second type we want to have a look at is the discussion essay. The wording in the rubric or question may vary, but here is an example. Nowadays, most green energy is becoming ever more prevalent in both developed and developing countries. Some argue that is green energy, reduce costs and are better for the environment. Others believe they're a serious threat to energy security. Security here is a difficult word for many students. What do we mean? But it really means availability. So the instruction here is discuss both views and give your opinion. So we have to argue both that it reduces costs and is better for the environment, and also that it could be a threat. So this student here has written a very good essay. So he says, since the advent of industrialization, countries have seen pollution levels rising perniciously. Wow. And consequently, more and more nations are resorting to alternative energy sources. So, great statement there for the beginning of the intro. Clearly understands the title. The first paragraph is going to address energy security, so therefore reliability. It's often been suggested that green energy sources such as solar or wind can be unreliable due to instability in weather conditions and unpredictable natural disasters that may occur. Though this may be true to some extent, so this is a concession clause, if a wide variety of energy resources were used within a region, environmental interference could be mitigated. Really nice use of a second conditional, strong grammar here. For example, in an area containing both solar panels and wind turbines, during dimly lit days, wind energy could take up the main role to provide electricity and vice versa. Furthermore, in terms of energy security, industrialists tend to overlook the fact that fossil fuel reserves are limited. Unlike coal, natural resources such as sunlight, wind and sea waves exist in unlimited quantities. Therefore, the argument accusing green energy of being unstable or unreliable in comparison to conventional power sources is not always a valid one. I mean, you can see here, this is clearly a very high-level essay. It's argued beautifully, and the grammar here is really good. So the student, I know, has been working very hard to weave in some really clever grammar here, but it's done effortlessly. This is a sign of a very good essay. You sort of don't notice it. It feels incredibly natural. Much harder than it looks to do this. Second paragraph, we're going to look at the other side of this, so the benefits of the renewable energy to the environment. Usage of natural energy resources could be considered a crucial weapon in combating the world's current climate crisis. Global warming, for instance, might be slowed by reduced carbon emissions, and studies have shown that the carbon footprint of green power plants was paltry when compared to coal plants. Also, the risks associated with using natural energy as opposed to nuclear energy, for example, is far less. Even if green power plants fail, they would never produce as irreversible damages to the environment and to human life as radiation exposure would, costing governments millions in reparation and medical bills. And this is a really very, very high-level sentence here. You can hear, you can listen not only to the incredible lexis, the range of grammar here, the range of vocabulary here connected to this field of the environment, and the collocations are really, really impressive. And I love the structure coming in here, as irreversible damages to the environment as radiation would. So you've got a conditional with this very clever comparative structure worked into it. So here's the kind of example in a way. To this day, Chernobyl in Russia is considered a radioactive zone following a nuclear power plant explosion. Its former residents are still relying on the government for treatment associated with radiation exposure, illustrating that green energy may not only be a more environmentally sustainable, but also medically and ultimately financially superior. I mean, wow, wonderful work. You can hear how good that is. But also what I want to draw your attention to is how the structure of the essay, this is what we're looking at today, the structure of this IELTS essay is excellent. It's clear. Each point follows on from the other. So you've got the overall structure, the paragraphs work, but also within each paragraph, we've got this lovely development which is going through. So looking really, really lovely. The last one we're going to have a little look at here is a problem solution essay. Structure is slightly different. So with the problem solution essay, your intro will be similar to the basic essay structure we looked at earlier, but you don't need to repeat your opinion. You don't need to state your opinion. You can in the conclusion, but you don't have to. This format or the format or layout here is clear. So your first paragraph will explain or describe the problems or causes, it may say, you've identified in the intro, explaining them clearly and then adding detail, such as the impact that might be having and why. And then your second paragraph will change direction and offer some solutions. So useful language for this might be policymakers might prefer to focus on investing in whatever, or even stronger, policymakers should focus on, or really strong, depending on how you feel about this, policymakers should be obliged to refocus their attention on. So there's various different ways you can do this, but we want to be seeing this kind of language here. The title for this one is, These Days, Problems with Pollution Are Becoming Worse, particularly in large cities. What are the reasons for this, and how can this be solved? So, what are the reasons for pollution? One side. How can it be solved? The other one. Give reasons for your answer, so that means you need to develop it, and include any examples from your knowledge or experience. Now, quick little word of warning here. This does not mean your personal experience. This means what you know about. Okay? We talk about examples on the course, how to add examples. It's a very, very important thing to get right. So the first paragraph here looks at a description of various problems, and the student here, different student, goes in a clear, direct manner. Use of personal vehicles instead of, or in preference to public transport, has been a fundamental cause of urban pollution. This is because the speed and convenience of personal vehicles, because of the speed and convenience of personal vehicles, and also due to a lack of efficient alternative means of transportation, such as local trains, city buses and trams in many cities. So that's one reason for the problem. Moreover, here's another reason. Rapidly growing industrialization has also been another reason for this increase, due to the fact that too many industries have been dumping their waste onto the environment without performing any decontamination procedures, and a result, often polluting land, underground water sources and fresh air. So we've got two problems very clearly outlined and very clearly developed. We've got the reasons as well. What are the reasons? The reason for one is there's no public transport. The reason for the other is companies dumping waste. So absolutely immaculate there on the task achievement and doing what they had to. And also very, very good work again on grammar here and on the development. The whole kind of coherence just works nicely. Second paragraph is going to look at possible solutions. And the student indicates very clearly to the examiner, hey, I'm changing direction here. So turning to possible solutions, one key step would be to develop more efficient public transportation systems and offer subsidies to regular users. This could encourage city dwellers to abandon their individual cars, which could reduce a large amount of greenhouse gases from the environment. To tackle industrial waste, governments should introduce strict regulations and impose high fines on the industries which might not comply with authoritative rules. As a result, private organisations might be incentivized to search for alternatives, such as recycling of byproduct or decontamination techniques. It's been shown that if strict government legislations were passed in the UK, 70% of industrial waste might not be polluting the environment. So, very nice. What they've done here in the structure is developed or suggested a solution for the first problem, which was individual cars. So abandon your cars, and because you're going to have better transport. And the second thing is impose fines and stricter regulations for the industries who are polluting. So again, very, very clear there, and saying what benefits there would be. So as a result, there could be more recycling, which would be an added benefit. And then I like the example here coming in a conditional. If government legislation were passed, 70% of waste might not be polluting. So that's a very good conditional there to end with in the example. So I hope that today we've managed to just help you a little bit on these essay structures for IELTS. So we've looked at opinion essays, where you have to give your opinion. We've looked at a discussion essay, where you've had to show different sides of an argument. And we've looked at problem solution, where you've clearly outlined the problem and you're going to offer the solutions. So it's important that you feel confident with this. And if you're struggling with your IELTS preparation, you want to get some super friendly professional help, then we're here, IELTSPodcast.com, here to help you. Sign up for the podcasts, sign up for the emails at IELTSPodcast.com, and they're full of tutorials and guidance. Get involved in the course or get involved in some essay feedback. So you're going to get corrections and then feedback, and then you write more essays, and that is just the best way to improve. Practice does make perfect in this IELTS research, IELTS preparation. If you've got a friend who's also working towards IELTS, then please share this podcast with them. Tell them where to find us, and good luck, all of you, with your preparation. I'm Daphne, and thank you very much for listening.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.